Hey yo, it's your boy Kaliko. Today on Is It Trash or Should You Spend That Cash, we're going to be talking about The Rise of Skywalker. Now before I get into The Rise of Skywalker, I am also going to talk a little bit about Star Wars The Last Jedi and also about Star Wars The Force Awakens. Now, The Force Awakens was the first movie in this trilogy of Star Wars movies, and I really enjoyed it. It's where we are introduced to Rey, the main character and the heroine in all of these movies. It's also where we're introduced to most of the characters that we see in the whole trilogy. And I really enjoyed this movie when I saw it the first time. I came out of it really excited to see the second movie. And that's a really big deal when you're putting out the first movie and the second movie of a trilogy. Is does it really make you want to see the next movie that's coming after that? Now, there was a few things that probably threw me off a little bit, but in general, with the movie Star Wars The Force Awakens, I came out of that theater super excited to see the second movie. The ending of that movie, spoiler if you haven't seen it yet, it ended with us seeing that Rey found Skywalker. And when she finds Luke Skywalker, it's a big momentous deal in the movie. And it seemed like that was going to be part of the thing that made the second movie so great. Well, all of that hype I had inside of me and all of the excitement to see the second movie was completely crushed when I saw the second movie. Now, when I came walking out of the movie Star Wars The Last Jedi, I had seen that with all of my family, and most of the people in my family were super excited about the movie they just watched, but I wasn't. I was upset. I felt like there was so many plot holes and that it's a couple of things that just didn't make sense to me at all. And then also what they did with the Luke character to me was absolutely insane. Being that I'm somebody that has read a lot of the Expanded Universe books, I've read a lot of the books in the Star Wars Expanded Universe, and one of the fantastic things about the Star Wars Expanded Universe is that they would find other authors that had written great fantasy series and offer them the opportunity to write for Star Wars. Yet when they got the opportunity to write for Star Wars, they had to make their book fit into the timeline, and everything that they referenced had to actually have happened or fit into the context that was already written. So that would mean that, like, when Terry Brooks wrote his Star Wars books, which Terry Brooks is famous for the Swords of Shannara series, which he created, he had to do research into books previous that he might have referenced something that happened. He couldn't just make it up as he goes along because he might be messing with the timeline of what people already understood. And this is something that really ingratiated the readers of the Star Wars Expanded Universe to keep reading the Star Wars Expanded Universe, because it didn't matter who was writing. It was still going to fit in with what had happened previously or in the future of the Expanded Universe. And that's really part of what makes those books so amazing and still worth reading today. Just like most of the regular public, the thing that upset me the most about Star Wars The Last Jedi was what they did with Luke's character. It was completely against every Luke Skywalker writing that had ever been. It flew in the face of the type of person and the type of Jedi that Luke Skywalker was. And it was the biggest problem with the second movie. Now, the other biggest problem with the second movie is that the person that wrote and directed the first movie was not the person that had the main decision making in the second movie. And if you're going to make a trilogy, you should have the same people working on the first, second, and third movie, especially if the storylines or the stories themselves are so interact with each other. You shouldn't give somebody else's creative license inside of the thing that is being, the piece of artwork that is being told in the first part. It shouldn't have a dramatic shift of creative thought process like obviously happened in the second movie here with Star Wars The Last Jedi. And it was fair to call it The Last Jedi, but there was a lot of people that hated that movie, and I was one of them. I came out of that theater really upset and angry, and it really didn't even make me want to see the next Star Wars movie. And to tell you the truth, if I didn't have a Regal Unlimited pass, I wouldn't have seen this third Star Wars movie in the theaters. I would have waited till I could watch it on Netflix or Amazon or something like that. Yet, I am glad that I have an unlimited pass and I can do these reviews and I can go ahead and watch some of these movies before they're out in Amazon and out on Netflix and stuff like that. I'm a little bit lucky on that aspect. Now let's get into my review of Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. Now, Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, no spoilers, it was a very well put together movie. And one of the main things that they really tried to do and they really focused on was healing the wounds they had created with the second movie. They really went out of their way, in my mind, to make that second movie fit in by doing certain things in the third movie. And the third movie is very much a good Star Wars movie. It is an adventure that goes from place to place. It says a lot in the time that it has. And one of my favorite things about this movie, and one thing you definitely need to know, is you should show up early to see it. This movie had almost no commercials at the beginning of it. There was almost no trailers before the movie itself played. So be on time for this movie or you might miss the opening of it, and that would suck very badly. Now, they did a lot of pulling your emotions one way and pulling your emotions another way. And there was a couple of times where that fell a little bit flat on me. Yet, it was done so well in general that there was a couple times where this movie brought a tear to my eye, and one time specifically where it truly, truly did. And you could hear other people around me sniffling and stuff like that. And I really appreciated the depths in the movie, and I really appreciated that it felt again like a real Star Wars movie. I would tell you right off the bat, spend that cash. This movie's not trash. It's definitely worth your money to see. Whether it's in the theater or some other place that you watch it, this movie is really worth watching. I really did enjoy it. Now, there's a couple of spaces, I think, where they're trying to pull on emotions a little bit too hard, especially at the very end. They do some throwback things that little bit hit the cheese factor a little bit too much. But all in all, this movie was really good. Now, I do know that a lot of people will be upset at the beginning of this movie and with a couple of things that happen at the beginning of this movie. My oldest son was one of those people. I went and watched this movie with all three of my kids, and a little while into the movie, not too long into the movie, something happened that disgruntled and upset my son. Disgruntled is probably the wrong word, but it upset him so bad that he stood up and his chair slapped so loud against the seat that everybody in the two rows around us were like focused on him for a second, and he stomped out of that theater. He was so angry. Now, he is a true Star Wars fan. He's read a lot of stuff that has to do with Star Wars. He's watched a lot of stuff that has to do with Star Wars. He's into Star Wars comic books and stuff like that. And when he went stomping out, there was a gentleman a couple rows behind us that was completely on his team because he stomped out right after him. And both of them came back into the theater about 15 minutes later. And unfortunately, that 15 minutes of missing stuff completely disconnected my son from the movie. He was so upset by the one part that he left, and he missed so much that when he came back, it was hard for him to get back into the movie. And it was a little bit of a distraction for other people too, let's just say. Yet, by the end of the movie, I really think it did a great job of ingratiating almost everybody who hated the second movie into appreciating this movie. And of course, I'm doing my best not to ruin any of this movie for you. And another really good thing that I'm impressed with is the trailer house that made the trailer for this movie. Being that they did not ruin this movie with the trailers. A lot of times nowadays, if you watch they tend to put out 2 or 3 trailers on YouTube and stuff like that before the movie's out. And these trailer houses can put every good moment in a movie in a trailer and sort of ruin the movie for you. If you go and watch an hour and a half to a 3-hour movie and the trailers that you've seen are the only good parts in the whole movie, the movie definitely is a letdown as a viewer that paid $12 for a ticket to watch it. They didn't do that. I think it would have been near impossible for them to actually put that much action into the trailers that was in this movie. This movie did a really good job, and the trailer house did a really good job of making it to where you couldn't decipher the whole movie just by watching the trailers. You were not going to exactly know what was going to happen where, whereas some trailers that are made nowadays basically give you the whole storyline of the movie before it's over. This is a true Star Wars movie, and it sticks to the heart and soul of what makes Star Wars movies great. It really sticks to the heart and the soul of the dark side trying to turn the good guys bad, and the light side trying to turn the dark side good. And it really does a great job of explaining some things, and it does a good job of making some new uses of the Force that we've never witnessed before, which I know there's going to be some guys that are like seriously hardcore fans that are going to hate how the Force is used a couple of times. Specifically because it's never been done in any of the movies before. I've never heard of it talked about in any of the books that I've read. And a couple of times that it happens as if the people that are using the Force are not even trying, and they're doing a couple of like even ridiculously amazing things for the Star Wars universe and being able to use that magic that the Force is. Yet, without some of those moments, I really don't think they would have been able to bring you to places that they wanted to. It did a good job of throwing back to previous films and getting you to notice that they were using premises and ideas from previous films in new ways. There's one specific area that I don't want to ruin the movie for you because I'm going to talk about it in generalities, but there's one specific area where Rey is having a fight, and it's very similar to a fight that Luke had had. And there was a point to the fight that Luke had had, and Yoda had really talked about that after or during, I don't quite remember, that it had happened. Whereas with that same throwback moment with Rey, it was cut off midstream, and it wasn't expanded upon, and it wasn't finished in the way that Luke finished it. And so I really felt that that was the only moment in the movie that did a really great disservice to the movie, because I noticed what it was supposed to be about. It's a really big paramount moment in a Jedi's life, and they really sort of missed that one area. Yet this is near a 3-hour movie. Being that it's a movie that's so long, they're trying to not waste any of the viewer's time. They're trying to carry the story along, make it super engaging, make it to where you want to be there and you're happy with what's at the end, especially after the second movie was so bad. But that one moment could have used another 30 seconds, maybe another 2 minutes for Rey's understanding to settle in of what had happened to her, being that it's such a momentous moment in a Jedi's life. Once again, I say this movie's not trash. You should spend that cash, especially if you're a Star Wars fan. I really enjoyed this movie as a longtime Star Wars fan, and I'm really happy with the way this film turned out.
Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker
is a fantastic film. I do hope that they're not done with Star Wars and the cinematic universe, even though they keep saying, this is the end of the story, the final, in all of their advertisements, they've acted like there's never going to be another Star Wars movie. And that could make some sense after they feel like Solo was a flop and Rogue One was a flop, whereas I really enjoyed Rogue One. It upset people that spoiler alert, everybody dies in Rogue One, But that sort of had to happen because of the way that the original movies went. Those people, there's no possible way for them to accomplish the mission they needed to accomplish and have them survive to be in any other sort of movies, because they were on a suicide mission. That's the point about Rogue One, pretty much. The point of Rogue One is that for the Imperials to be defeated, sacrifices had to be made. And that's a very good point about war in general, is that there is no war without death, and good people die in war. And that was really the point of Rogue One. Now, Solo, I didn't see Solo in theaters. I saw Solo at my house on a TV, and I honestly thought Solo was a good movie. I enjoyed Solo, and I felt like the gentleman who was playing Han Solo in the movie Solo, I think he did a really good job of making himself seem like the Harrison Ford Solo. I think he did a good job with the mannerisms. I think he did a good job with the voice. Now, unless they CGI'd his face to look exactly like Harrison Ford, he was never going to look like Harrison Ford. And unless they got Harrison Ford to do the acting and they CGI'd him to be way younger, it just wasn't going to be Harrison Ford in that movie. And I think that's part of the reason that Solo got such bad reviews, because as a standalone movie, I think Solo was a good movie. I don't think it was a perfect 10, but I also don't think it was anywhere near a 5. I think it was a good movie. Now, Star Wars The Last Jedi, I give it a solid 8.5. And that's a really good score for me. It's hard to get a 9 or a 9.5 out of me like Dr. Sleep did, but to tell you the truth, before me and all of my kids went and watched Star Wars, I took my oldest son to watch Dr. Sleep, because Dr. Sleep is an amazing movie. So I'm going to end this here and tell you, this movie's not trash. Spend that cash. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already, or if you know somebody that'd like to see a movie review. I love you for watching, and I'm going to leave about 20 seconds of this video rolling so I can start adding end screens and stuff to my videos, because I haven't been doing that recently. Anyways, more videos to come soon. I will see you then.